political story breaking tonight. Calls are growing among Democrats in California for Senator Dianne Feinstein to resign right now, rather than complete her term, which ends in January of 2025. 2 months ago, she contracted shingles and has missed every Senate vote since. California Congressman Ro Khanna of Silicon Valley tweeting this out, quote, "It is time for Senator Feinstein to resign. We need to put the country ahead of personal loyalty. While she has had a lifetime of public service, it is obvious she can no longer fulfill her duties. Not speaking out undermines our credibility as elected representatives of the people." Khanna, by the way, is a campaign co-chair for Barbara Lee, who is the most likely person to be appointed to that seat, by the way. Feinstein's team just releasing her own statement moments ago saying, quote, "I intend to return as soon as possible once my medical team advises that it's safe for me to travel. In the meantime, I remain committed to the job and will continue to work from home in San Francisco." She also, this is important, has asked Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer to name a temporary replacement on the Judiciary Committee so that committee can move judges out of committee. With more on all this, we're joined by my friend, political analyst, Brian Goldsmith. Brian, a lot going on, a lot breaking in just the last few hours of this. Where is the state of things on this when you have this big statement from Ro Khanna and then this big statement from Dianne Feinstein? Where are we at?
Well, there have been murmurs and rumors about Senator Feinstein's health for a long time, but no real pressure on her actually to step down from people who would matter or who would induce her to make that decision. Today may be the day that all of that changed and the dam has started to break, with comments not just from Congressman Khanna, but from others, that because she sits on this critical committee and because her absence is actually hurting the Biden administration's ability to confirm judges, she ought to rethink her whole position.
And yet her statement basically says, I'm not going anywhere.
Right. I think she's quite determined to serve out her term. Whether physically she's able to do that is another question. And there is another political agenda that is at work here as well. Congressman Khanna is co-chair of Barbara Lee's Senate campaign. Congressman Khanna, former co-chair of Bernie Sanders' campaign, future presidential candidate, no doubt. And so I think he would like to help to encourage a scenario in which, as you said, Barbara Lee is appointed by Gavin Newsom, who promised to appoint a black woman, and therefore Khanna gets some credit for making that happen.
Well, let's show that. So let's take you back. This was sort of the height of the Black Lives Matter movement. There was some discussion on whether Dianne Feinstein would leave office back then. Gavin Newsom goes on Joy Reid's show on MSNBC and says this.
If, in fact, Dianne Feinstein were to retire, will you nominate an African-American woman to restore the seat that Kamala Harris is no longer in the United States Senate? And do you have a name in mind?
I have multiple names in mind. We have multiple names in mind, and the answer is yes.
So, is he now boxed in to do that? Could there be a caretaker like Barbara Boxer, who's already been a senator but is white? Or are we going to potentially have to see a black woman, and who potentially is that?
Well, this is why it can be dangerous to make these sorts of promises, because then other compelling candidates, other diverse candidates cannot be even considered unless you're reneging on the promise that you made. There are obviously other qualified black women candidates whom he could consider. I think personally the right thing for the state, given that this seat only comes up once in a generation, given the consequence attached to, who becomes our next senator, the people should decide this, and it shouldn't just be the governor making the choice behind closed doors. So if I were advising Gavin Newsom, both from a what is right for California standpoint and politically what is smart for him standpoint, I would say appoint a caretaker. You can keep your promise about appointing a black woman, and then let the primary play out as it already is.
So when he says caretaker, he means somebody who promises not to run for the seat. They would just be in that seat to, take us through January of 2025. We shall see. A lot of twists and turns to come on this. Brian, thank you for helping us guide us through it. Always great to see you.